Sylvester Stallone stepped into a luxury fashion boutique on Rodeo Drive. No one turned around. No one held the door. A staff member raised an eyebrow in silent contempt, then looked away, as if he were some drifter who'd stumbled into a world of silk and designer fragrance. Not a single greeting, not even a courteous glance, just quiet judgment, as if he carried the dust of a place no one wanted to remember. But just 3 minutes later, 2 men in sharp gray suits stepped out of a Bentley parked at the curb. The room fell completely silent. Every eye turned toward the man they never should have underestimated. Before we dive deeper into this story, make sure to hit that like button and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. We love seeing how far these stories can travel. The sun hadn't fully risen over Rodeo Drive, but the morning air was already perfumed with espresso, street flowers, and ambition. Outside Elan Atelier, one of Beverly Hills' most discreet and exclusive fashion boutiques, the glass storefronts shimmered like invitations only few dared to accept. There was no sign on Elan's door, just a frosted pane, etched with twin silver feathers, and the faintest scent of cedar escaping every time it opened. Inside, soft jazz fluttered through the air like silk threads. Spotlights glowed warmly over marble floors, and mannequins clad in sleek silhouettes, tailored suits, bespoke evening gowns, cashmere wraps. Everything here was curated, from the exact humidity to the curve of the display shelves. It wasn't just a store. It was a sanctuary for status. Then the door opened with a soft chime. A man walked in. He wore a brown suede jacket, faded Levi's, a simple black t-shirt, and a pair of scuffed boots that had clearly lived more life than half the clientele combined. His hair, gray at the temples, curled out from under a nondescript ball cap. His face, half hidden in shadow, wore years like medals. Some scars don't need introduction. The sales team behind the boutique's reception barely looked up. Only Reed, a young stylist with a sharp jawline and sharper tongue, gave the man a once-over. No designer logos, no entourage, no visible wealth. He didn't belong. Not here. The man paused by a mannequin dressed in a midnight blue overcoat with hand-stitched seams and brass button accents. He studied it like it meant something, not like it was on sale for $7,800. Reed adjusted his collar and walked over, a smile rehearsed for the cameras and the commissions. "Sir," he said, with a tone that belonged more in a courtroom than customer service, "this wing of the boutique is for atelier clients. We don't allow casual browsing here." The man turned to him, calm. "Didn't realize I needed credentials to admire a coat." Reed smiled tightly. "It's more of a preservation thing. These items are investment pieces. We prefer to keep them in pristine condition." The man looked back at the coat. "Looks like it could survive a little admiration." "Of course," Reed said, forcing a chuckle. "Though if you're interested in our ready-to-wear section, we do have some fine outerwear, starting at around $1,200. The man smiled faintly. It wasn't warm. "Good to know," he said, and took a step deeper into the atelier collection. From behind, Margot, the boutique coordinator, had already sent a silent alert. She tapped a discreet button below the counter and leaned into the intercom. "Unscheduled walk-in," she murmured. "Atelier wing. No appointment." In the back lounge, Alistair Vane, co-founder and creative director of Elan Atelier, set down his espresso and stood. With his silver-framed glasses and tailored navy suit, he was every bit the face of the brand. Elegant, calculated, and unforgiving. He walked through the boutique slowly, expression unreadable. When he saw the man near the outerwear display, he stopped. Something in the man's posture was familiar. "Sir," Alistair said as he approached, "may I assist you?" The man turned. His eyes were a weathered steel blue. They met Alistair's with a stillness that was not passive. It was commanding. "Just admiring the coat," the man said. "My father used to have one like it." Alistair's tone stiffened. "That coat is part of our private heritage line. It's not for general viewing." "Wasn't planning on stealing it," the man said, glancing back at the fabric. Alistair's lips curved slightly, more reflex than amusement. "We do ask that visitors remain in the accessible section of the store, unless accompanied by a stylist." "Guess I missed the velvet rope," the man muttered. Alistair was about to respond when, overhead, a small mechanical click sounded. Pshh! A ceiling-mounted sprayer activated with a soft hiss. Designed to release a fine mist of citrus cedar blend every hour to enhance the customer journey, today it misfired. A sudden, forceful jet of water-diluted scent exploded downward, soaking the man's shoulder, chest, and collar. A staff member gasped. Someone near the shoe wall whispered, "Oh no!" Alistair blinked. Reed laughed. "Looks like the coat got jealous." The man slowly looked down. His shirt clung to his chest. Water beaded on his suede jacket. The scent, meant to feel like luxury, now smelled like insult. He didn't shout. He didn't storm out. He simply reached into his jacket and pulled out a crumpled cloth, dabbing at the collar. Nobody moved. Nobody apologized. Until someone did. A woman named Olivia, mid-40s, quiet, competent, the kind of employee who remembered birthdays and allergies, walked over from the hospitality bar with a clean cotton towel and a chilled bottle of sparkling water. "I'm really sorry about that," she said softly. "The system's glitching again. Let me help." The man looked at her, took the towel, and nodded. "Thanks." Their eyes met, and in that second, something shifted in her face. Recognition. It was Sylvester Stallone. Not the red carpet version, not the magazine cover icon, the real man. The man who wrote Rocky on a paper pad in a one-room apartment. The man who lived more than he ever flaunted. She said nothing, just stepped back. Stallone finished drying off and turned his head slightly, surveying the boutique. He didn't look at the coats or the accessories. He looked at the staff, the clients, the whispers. The way Reed leaned against the glass, as if nothing had happened. The way Alistair had already begun retreating to his office, clearly satisfied the disruption had been handled. He reached into his pocket again. This time, it wasn't a cloth. It was a sleek, black, logoless phone. Matte finish. Fingerprint ID only. A device few people knew he carried. He tapped the screen. Upstairs, a server pinged. A background audit began. Discreet, internal, silent. Across the showroom, Olivia watched, understanding dawning in her eyes. Something had shifted, and not just in the air. Sylvester Stallone stood motionless, in the center of Elan Atelier, the scent of cedar and citrus still lingering on his soaked suede jacket. Around him, the boutique had returned to its glossy rhythm. Soft music, careful footsteps, curated murmurs. But beneath that surface, something had cracked. He could feel it in the silence between glances, in the way Olivia hesitated before returning to the hospitality bar, in the way Reed leaned just a little too hard on a display case, pretending not to care. The phone in Stallone's hand buzzed once. That was all he needed. The signal had been received. A secure system buried deep in the operations of Elan Atelier was now running a silent, full-spectrum audit. Employee behavior logs, customer complaint files, audio from the boutique floor, and closed-circuit camera footage from the last 72 hours were being pulled in real time to a private server. Stallone didn't even look at the screen again. He tucked the phone back into his pocket and took a slow walk past the Atelier coats, not out of interest, but observation. A tall woman in a white pantsuit whispered to her husband and glanced over her sunglasses at him. Two teenage influencers took a selfie near the entrance, then laughed quietly when one zoomed in on his wet shoulder. The store itself seemed to conspire in quiet judgment. Back in the office, Alistair Vane was flipping through a digital lookbook on his tablet when a second buzz from his private line made him frown. The number was internal, high priority, and used only in extreme scenarios. He picked up, and the voice on the other end was calm, female, and absolute. "Mr. Vane, a protocol-level review has been triggered on your location. A compliance officer is en route. Do not inform your staff. Do not interfere." Alistair blinked. "Excuse me, who authorized this?" The line went dead. On the boutique floor, Olivia approached Stallone again, this time without a tray or towel. "Is there anything I can help you find, sir?" she asked gently. Stallone glanced at her, then nodded toward the display. "What's the story behind that navy coat?" She smiled softly, relieved by the question. That one was part of a limited run. Hand-woven wool from the Hudson Valley. Brass hardware from a foundry in Montana. Only 10 made. Stallone nodded slowly, more impressed with the origin than the price tag. "My father had something like it when I was a kid. He worked freight at Port Newark. Saved up 6 months' pay to buy it from an Army-Navy store. Said it made him feel like someone worth respecting." Olivia's smile softened. "Sounds like he was." Stallone shrugged slightly. "Back then, no one dressed to impress. They dressed to be taken seriously." Suddenly, the boutique doors opened with a crisp hiss. Heads turned. A black Cadillac Escalade pulled up to the curb, followed by a smaller, blacked-out SUV. From the lead vehicle stepped a woman in a charcoal suit, her silver ponytail precise, her steps echoing on the marble tile. She carried a leather-bound portfolio and a badge clipped discreetly to her belt. 2 assistants followed her, tablets in hand. At the desk, Margot's eyes widened. Reed stepped away from the wall. Olivia straightened. Alistair emerged from the office, his voice calm but forced. "May I help you?" The woman didn't slow her pace. "My name is Dana Brooks, Compliance Division, Maison Lux Holdings." She stopped inches from him. "Effective immediately. Your location is under active review. All staff will remain present. All customers will be respectfully dismissed." Before Alistair could protest, another agent stepped to the front desk. "We'll be requesting access to your back office terminals." Margot nodded nervously, typing her access code. Reed moved to the woman in the pantsuit, whispering something hurriedly. Dana glanced at him. "Staff interaction is suspended during audit." Her tone was calm, but her presence was steel. She turned toward Stallone. "Mr. Stallone," she said with a nod, "we're proceeding." The room changed in an instant. Clients were asked to leave, most confused but compliant. A couple of them realized who Stallone was and pulled out phones discreetly. He ignored the attention. As the boutique emptied, Dana Brooks began directing her team to review the overhead footage. Reed paced near the display wall, arms folded tightly. Olivia stood off to the side, watching silently, unreadable. Stallone took a seat near the coats and waited, eyes steady, as if this entire moment had been planned. 30 minutes passed. Then Dana stood with a tablet in hand and addressed the room. We've reviewed multiple flagged interactions over the past week. Pattern recognition software indicates disproportionate bias in access, tone, and service, specific to race, appearance, and attire. She turned toward Alistair, who had stopped trying to smile. Further review shows a recurring pattern in which verbal gatekeeping was used to deter walk-in customers outside of the stylist preferred list. Reed scoffed. We have a brand standard. We're not running a mall kiosk. Dana looked up from the tablet. Brand standard does not equal personal bias. You addressed Mr. Stallone as if he didn't belong here. Reed shook his head. I didn't know who he was. Dana didn't blink. That's precisely the problem. Alistair stepped forward. Look, if we'd known... Stallone stood. His voice was low but firm. You'd have treated me different, offered espresso, called me sir, told me about the coat's stitch count and the hands that made it. But you didn't, because I walked in looking like someone who wasn't worth your time. He paused, letting the words weigh. I'm not the only one that's happened to. Am I? Dana looked at Olivia. You've been here 5 years. Ever see behavior that made you uncomfortable? Olivia hesitated, then nodded once. Yes, more than once. Dana turned back to Alistair. We're escalating this to Maison Lux Executive Oversight. Effective immediately, Mr. Vane. Your position is suspended. Further access to financial or client systems is revoked. Alistair blanched. You can't... Stallone cut him off. You forgot what this was about. People don't walk into stores like this to feel less than. They walk in because something here, even just one coat, makes them feel worth remembering. He glanced at Reed. You sold exclusivity, but you cost this place its dignity. Dana nodded at her team. Please escort Mr. Vane to retrieve his personal effects. As Alistair was led away, Reed turned to Stallone. This is ridiculous. You think one bad spritz means you can burn it all down? Stallone tilted his head. I didn't come to burn anything. I came to see if anything was left worth saving. The room was quiet. The boutique, now emptied of clients and stripped of its curated arrogance, suddenly felt more real than it ever had. Olivia stepped forward. What happens now? Stallone looked at her. Now we rebuild, from the inside. The boutique had grown strangely quiet. Not the curated hush of luxury, but the raw silence that follows a reckoning. Sylvester Stallone stood in the middle of Elan Atelier, not as a man seeking revenge, but as a mirror held up to everything the store had become. The scent of bergamot still hung in the air, clinging to soaked fabric and fading illusions. Dana Brooks remained near the front of the store, reviewing staff files with her team, her voice low but unwavering. Olivia stood at Stallone's side, her posture calm yet alert, watching the fallout unfold around her. Reed lingered near the now muted cash-wrap station, no longer smug, his face drawn and pale. Alistair Vane had already been escorted out, his tailored presence removed like a flawed stitch in a precision seam. Stallone didn't move. He didn't need to. The moment now belonged to him, not out of force, but because of the truth that had finally been dragged into the light. Dana approached, holding a slim black folder. We've completed the immediate staff review. Several team members will be placed under compliance investigation. Others will be reassigned. Olivia has been identified in client reports as the only associate consistently rated for dignity, impartiality, and professionalism. She looked at Stallone. She's the reason some people came back." Stallone glanced at Olivia, then turned his eyes toward the velvet-draped walls, the hushed corners that had once whispered wealth, and now echoed accountability. "She's the reason I stayed," he said. Dana handed Olivia a secondary document. "As of now, you're being offered interim management. If accepted, you'll oversee internal culture reform and be responsible for rebuilding our client-first policies under new leadership guidance." Olivia blinked, caught between gratitude and disbelief. Yes, I accept," Stallone nodded once. "This place has the bones of something beautiful. It just forgot who it was for." Dana gestured to the central display, where the navy wool coat still hung. "This piece, would you like it preserved, retired, or relaunched under the revised collection?" Stallone walked toward the coat, ran a hand gently along the collar. "Keep it," he said, "but tell the real story. Where the wool came from, who stitched the buttons, what it meant to someone whose name isn't in a registry of heirs." Dana marked it down. "We'll include a client story card with each future piece. Real people, real history." Outside, the black Escalade remained at the curb. A new wave of employees from Maison Luxe had begun arriving. HR specialists, diversity consultants, branding analysts. The boutique was about to become something it had never been before. Honest. Inside, Stallone took a final look around. The displays looked the same. The lighting hadn't changed, but the air had shifted. There was clarity now, and in its place, a kind of quiet resolve. Olivia came to stand beside him. "Why did you come here today?" she asked. He smiled, not grandly, but like someone remembering something small and sacred. "My father used to wear a coat like that to Sunday dinner. Said it didn't matter if your shoes were old or your hands were calloused. What mattered was how you carried yourself and how you treated the person folding your napkin." Olivia nodded slowly, her voice soft. "He sounds like a good man." Stallone's eyes didn't leave the coat. "He was. And I walked in today, wondering if anyone still understood that kind of worth." Dana's voice came from behind. "Mr. Stallone, the ownership board has confirmed your advisory role will now include ethics oversight for all Maison Luxe boutiques. That includes hiring standards and mystery evaluations. Would you be willing to accept the position?" He looked at her, then at Olivia, then back to the coat. "Only if the first person we evaluate is me." Dana didn't smile, but her approval was clear in her nod. "Done." A few moments later, the boutique doors opened again, not to customers, but to staff returning from break, now summoned to hear what had happened. Olivia stood before them, not with a speech, but with a new tone, one of inclusion, accountability, and clarity. Stallone stepped back as she spoke, content to let her take the lead. This was her space now, her platform to rewrite the culture. Her voice, firm but fair, explained the coming changes. No more aesthetic profiling, no more silent dismissals, no more assumptions built on brands or fabric labels. Every customer would be treated with dignity, whether they wore Chanel or denim, Cartier or cotton. As the staff began absorbing this new reality, some visibly relieved, others uncertain, Stallone quietly made his way toward the exit. Olivia followed him briefly. "You sure you don't want the coat?" she asked, half teasing. He chuckled. "I don't need it. I came for the reminder." At the door, Dana joined them. "One last thing, sir," she said. "There's a press request already pending. They're asking about the incident." Stallone raised an eyebrow. "Tell them it wasn't an incident. It was a lesson, one that needed to happen." Dana nodded. Understood. Outside, the streets of Beverly Hills continued without pause. Tourists wandered, photographers clicked, and the scent of roasted coffee drifted down from the cafe next door. But inside Elan Atelier, nothing was the same. The velvet illusion had been lifted. In its place stood a team ready to face the truth. As Stallone reached his SUV, the driver opened the door. Before stepping in, he looked back one last time at the boutique, its entrance still glossy, still discreet, but no longer closed. Not in spirit. The headlines the next morning were predictable. Stallone shakes up fashion world with surprise boutique intervention. From waterlogged to woke, Rodeo Drive reckons with reality. And Sly Justice, actor turns the tables on high-end discrimination. But for those inside the store that day, the story wasn't about celebrity or spectacle. It was about the weight of being seen, about how easy it is to look past someone because of what they wear, and how hard it is to rebuild trust after you do. Olivia received her formal promotion within the week. Dana's team implemented training across 15 Maison Luxe boutiques nationwide. Stallone never returned to shop, but his name remained on the Compliance Advisory Board. Months later, a quiet change came to Elan Atelier's website. Each garment in the Atelier line included a story, not about the model who wore it in a campaign, but about the person who inspired it. The man who stitched the lining, the woman who ran the loom, the veterans who wore something similar on their best days. And the line that had once excluded began to invite. One customer, an elderly man from Inglewood, arrived weeks later wearing a pressed shirt and a pair of loafers that had seen better days. He was greeted by name, given tea, and offered a chair to try on a coat. It was the navy wool one. The associate didn't ask him what car he drove. She asked him how the fabric made him feel. Luxury, they had learned, wasn't in the thread count. It was in the way someone felt when they walked through the door. And that changed everything.